So here it is in the latest episode of Solo Leveling. We had one of the most explosive episodes, which, of course, with what happened in last week's episode, where, like I had said in the review, where really not a lot of stuff happened, but they really took that so they could fit as much as possible into this episode, which was really good because it was such a good one, such an explosive one, and the fighting was very clean. But yet and still, there were still some differences that could have made this episode just a little bit better. We'll go into them one by one. First things first, this part. Now here, I will say in this whole episode, this fight and this interaction that happened was actually several chapters long. So there were a lot more details into the fight, the battle, the setup than it was in this episode, which granted, they wanted to make sure this episode was jam-packed and had a start, middle, and end. Where they start going into the dungeon, they have a fight in the dungeon, they leave said dungeon. They wanted to fit it all in one episode. So of course, by them doing that, some little bits and pieces had to be taken away. Now, the things that they took away, I will say, would have made some of the character profiles and character development just a little bit better, just a little bit. First things first, the apology from this old guy, because you must remember, this was the guy that ran away from Jinwoo when in the double dungeon, all they had to do was just stand there and stare at the statues. That's it. Just stand there and stare at the statues. And this guy gets cold feet, runs away, and by him running away leads to the death, quote unquote, of Jinwoo. But, was a bigger blessing in disguise. I will say in the manhwa, his apology was a little bit longer. Now, granted, when you have a written media versus a visual media, you could fit a lot more lines in of, I'm sorry, I did this, and this, and this. But, when you're in a visual media, it only lasts a couple seconds because dude's about to die. Now, I think they did a good job in the portrayal of it because they did capture the moment of him where he's apologizing. Remember the settings in Korea, and when people apologize, they bow. So him, as he's dying, like his whole body leans forward and he bows as if that's part of the apology. They did capture that moment, which was very good. And it looks even cleaner, of course, because it's a visual media. So this part, pretty nice. He got to express what he got to say. Jinwoo got to express what he was trying to say, like, how could you die? I wanted to hate you. You were someone I wanted to hate and retaliate against, and yet here you are dying. Well, we did call it last week that they pretty much gave death flags on this guy when it's like, oh, showing his wife, his daughter, and how perfect his world is. And it's like, come on. Yeah, they basically just raised that flag, and here it is. He is dead. Now, Jo-hee here, they actually made it to where her trauma from the double dungeon interfered here. She could not heal anymore. Now, granted, in the manhwa, she was still healing. Shoot, she was even healing and buffing Jinwoo in the comics. But, of course, here, they try to make it like, okay, how can we show our main character being as cool and as strong as possible? Well, they made it to where her previous trauma is hurting her from being able to heal and keep up with the healing that she normally would be able to. I actually enjoyed the water effect they did with her healing aspect. I thought that was a really cool aesthetic. And it would have been even cooler if she was able to keep it up, but they just stopped her healing. She just buffed the mage but wasn't buffing Jinwoo, which, like I said, in the manhwa, she was still fine. Now, granted, she didn't like the situation she was in, but she was still able to keep up with things. Now, I like the fact that they are keeping their narrative going, because here in the anime, they're keeping up with the fact that she has gotten traumatization from the double dungeon, while in the manhwa, she wasn't as affected as badly as we see here in the anime. which I think is perfectly fine because they have a different narrative, but it fits. It's not like it's obscure and just shoehorned in. So it kind of works towards the actual anime. And in this episode that, here it is, she couldn't really heal Jinwoo, so he had to use the full recovery in order to heal his leg, which still the same thing happened in the manhwa, but it kind of gives an answer for like, wait, why do you have to use full recovery when she could have just healed it? So it was short, it was clean, and saved them time to fit in all the fighting. Now this line was added into the anime, but it was actually really cool how they did this, where Jinwoo was like, dang it, there's another piece of me going away as he goes through his killing intent and bloodlust. Like his emotions more and more as he fights and more that he gets these cold intent. His emotions, which make him who he is slowly being driven away as he becomes the monster to just kill and defeat his enemies before him. This wasn't in the manhwa, but in its place, they took away two absolutely cold moments that I really wish were in this episode. One, when he is fighting Kang. Kang, at the beginning of the fight, Kang's like, if you don't speak about this interaction that's happening, I'll let you guys go. But the MC's like, you say that, but the expression on your face kind of says different. So I kind of don't believe you, which would have been a good way to show how demented Kang is. Like, he's just not some guy, some pencil pusher that's just tired of his job and is like, yeah, I'll kill people, kind of make things better. Now, they did kind of show that a little bit, that he's really demented and loves killing people. They did add that in a line in here, but I think it would have been cool to show more and more examples of how twisted he is. So then we can kind of see him even more of a bigger villain that like, yeah, kill this dude as we're rooting for the MC. And one thing that could have shown this moment in an even colder moment was a very, very edited out moment that would have been so good for this anime was at the end. After the fight was over, it was actually revealed that this guy was still alive, that he was pretending to be dead. And Jinwoo noticed it as everyone left to go leave and he was going to the boss room. He was like, hey, I know you're still over there. You can get up. And this guy's like, oh no. So Jinwoo takes this guy to the boss room and uses him as bait. This guy, come to find out, was the main target that the guy that paid Kang off, that he wanted Kang to deal with, because it was this guy that was the ringleader. All of that was edited out. So Jinwoo takes this guy to the boss room, which the boss room was basically a troll leader, like it was like a war band of trolls. But this guy goes into the boss room and Jinwoo just sits back and lets all the trolls attack him and kill him for all the crimes that he's done in the past. And then it cuts out and basically implies that Jinwoo killed the boss, and it cuts to the scene we saw before where they're outside and they talk to the inspectors. For time's sake, they just basically made sure this guy, as you can see here in this face, that he's just dead to start. And they didn't add those scenes. I think it would have been an even better of a scene. Instead of having them show that little flame and Jinwoo's like, oh, one of my emotions is gone now, that you could representatively see Jinwoo becoming a colder version of himself if he took this guy to the boss room and just sat back and just let him die. Overall, great episode, and I'm glad that they did fit everything into one episode as far as what was going on. And honestly, Jinwoo is getting stronger and better of a fighter, but even he said that, man, I didn't realize this before, but the inspector is an A-rank dude. I don't even think I can beat him. For now, Jinwoo's like, I'm not strong enough to get an A rank, but we shall see how things develop in the future because he's just gonna get stronger, stronger, and stronger, and I can't wait to see it. overall, I hope you guys enjoyed this analysis because there was a lot of good things in this episode and some things I wish they added in, but we shall see how things develop next week. And honestly, there's only a couple more episodes left until the end of the season. I don't know where they're going to stop the season off, but let me tell you, as far as what's going on now versus the manhwa, there is a lot more to cover. So we're not even scratching the surface of what's going to really go down in this anime. So I cannot wait to see, one, where they end it, and two, are they going to announce when season 2 happens? Are they going to work on it? Are we going to get some type of information about it? Hopefully soon. But regardless of that, I hope you guys have a great day. Please be safe and make sure to check out my Patreon because you will see the reaction of this episode there. Until then, be safe, take care, and Lord willing, I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye for now. Make sure to check out the extra content on our Patreon page, and thanks to our current patrons.
This ain't what you want, bitch, I'm a fucking phenomenon.